And where did your love for photography come from, Peter?
From seeing what's been said 1,000 times before, I say it. Seeing that image come up from a plain piece of paper into something which resembles something, you know. Just magic, isn't it? You know, it's just, you know, it's there 1 minute and suddenly your image starts to appear. And you think, wow, I like that. So, you know, that's where it initially started, I think. Same as loads of people.
And where did you find your inspiration to take photographs from? Of? Yeah.
Subject matter, you mean?
Yes.
Self-satisfaction, really. Just trying to be like a magnum photographer. That's where my big inspiration was, I think. I wasn't in touch with anybody. Well, no, probably Tony Ray Jones.
Right.
Was the initial spark, I think, which got me down, interested into, you know, just a revolution, wasn't he, when he came along? Yeah. Different approach, different style, different way of looking at the world. And it resonated with me, you know. And I was about, what, I don't know, 20 or something at the time. And I thought, this is meaningful stuff, you know. So that's where my initial keenness on getting into photography came from, I think.
And when you say meaningful?
Well, it's got to be meaningful, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's got to have a story to tell, I think. You know, it's a unique visual language we're talking in the photograph, you know. It's not a, and if it's not giving you a message, whereas if you can't read the photograph, well, you might as well discard it. Because I think it's so, it can convey so many messages of happiness or emotions, or, you know, it can ring a bell in anybody's mind. You put the photograph on Facebook or one of the social media sites, and they might be 40 years old. Maybe I put some recently of a holiday I went on in Italy with a group of youth club members from Aberystwyth, and I put this photograph up, and the response was massive. You know, it sort of reawakened people's views, and they started discussing various aspects and who was who in the photograph. And if it hasn't got that message to communicate, I don't think it's worth anything. You know, and they thanked me. They said, thank you very much for putting that photograph. I had so many happy memories of that time. And it brought them all flooding back. And if you can get that meaning, that's what I mean by meaningful, if it means something to somebody, a lot of modern photography, I think it fails in that respect, because it's got to have text and words to go with the image to try and give it a kick, to try and waken it, the tree stump and moss on it. What I call clups, you see. I call these people clups. Now, you might ask, what does clups mean? Well, to me, it means concrete lamppost photographers. You know, you take a photograph of a concrete lamppost, and they have a page of text explaining what the photograph means in flowery language, which tries to convince the viewer that he's got something worthwhile to look at. Well, to me, that just falls flat on his face. You've got to have this image in front of you, which more or less, you know, grabs you by the ghoulies as you walk past it and say, look at me. I'm sorry, I don't know what the female equivalent to that would be. But, you know, it's got to stop you in your tracks and say, look at me. And it draws you in, you know. And then you look at it and you start finding these various meanings within the photograph. And a really meaningful photograph to me is one which you never decipher. You can't find the bottom end of it. It just leads you all the time. You think, oh, I understand now what that photograph means. It go to bed, you wake up in the morning, you go look at it again, your mind is somewhere else, you know. It takes you down a different avenue. And you think, oh God, I haven't seen that before. And that's what does it for me.
Yeah, it's like the, I agree entirely with you, because it's like nobody has to explain a good joke, do they?
No.
And
No,
you know, a joke is a joke.
It either grabs you or it doesn't.
Exactly so, yes.
Yeah. That's what I mean by meaningful. You know, I haven't done it. It's just for me it is. It's just I've never had to work to a commission or a deadline or to satisfy anybody else. It's just an indulgence which I have. And I like, you know, producing something which means something. To me more than anybody else, you know, satisfy myself.
Do you remember the first camera you had?
Yeah. Duoflex, box, Kodak thing. One speed, one aperture. Could only take film and photos in bright sunshine, really. And then I went on to a Petriflex. And then I didn't touch a camera for 30 years, and then I went out and bought a Leica, for God's sake. Which is probably, you know, one of the most desired cameras, or posers' desired cameras, there is to be had.
So were you a poser then?
Well, I do. I don't. You know, I don't like to. You know, I'm not a celebrity. I hate the word celebrity. I hate the word X Factor and all these sort of famous 15 Minutes people here. Yeah. They get up my nose. I don't think there's room for them, and I'm just opposite that, whatever that is.
So what was the kick to make you pick up a camera and buy a Leica? What triggered that?
Well, there was a photo gallery project, turn of the millennium, called Just Another Day, where they were giving out free cameras for people to record the 24 hours of the actual millennium. And my name was put forward and I got a camera. And with the results, they printed one of my pictures alongside. They had these professionals involved as well, like Bruce Gilden and David Hearn and people like that. And they picked out one of my photos to be printed alongside one of theirs, the group that they'd taken. They're all different subject matters. And I took one of a bloke in the forest with a dog and a gun, I think. And I thought, well, this is quite encouraging, you know. People seem to like my photos. So I thought I'd pursue it a bit more. So I went and did that. And just carried on from there, really.
And you photographed people in your locality? People you knew?
Generally, yeah. Just what I enjoy more than anything is going back through my archive, you know. Well, you can hardly call it an archive, it's just a jumble of boxes of negatives in. And then, you know, at the time you go through looking at your negatives and you're looking for something exciting to find. And you bypass a lot of quite valuable work, you know. And you give it more time and these photographs start to work on you. And you find that the exciting ones aren't the exciting ones at all. It's the quiet ones that you bypassed before which give you the kick. And you think, you know, never throw anything away because it's, you know, might have some good stuff in there. And I've recently, in the last fortnight, found quite a few thumbing through old egg files that, you know, have had an effect on me. And it's only me, you know. I'm not trying to look for something which is sensational or just something I like, you know. It's just meaningful to me. Meaningful again, see. It's got to be meaningful.
And multi-layered.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, diverts your thought patterns into thousands of maze which you can never sort of work out what it's saying to you. That's contradictory to what I say, meaningful, isn't it? You know, it's got to contradict you. You've got to contradict yourself. So it's a complex thing which you can't understand. Yeah. Those are the meaningful. That's what I mean by meaningful. I don't know whether other people think the same, but I don't care what they think, because I've got nobody to keep happy, you know, it's just me. And when I put a picture on the wall here, and they say, well, what's that woman, you know, why do I have to have that woman on the wall looking down at me all the time? I don't know who she is. But I say, oh, it's nice, it's, you know, meaningful. Oh, right.
So, and you picked up the camera, 30 years, but you'd photographed when you were a youngster.
Yeah.
20 years of age. What were you doing when you were 20 years of age, Peter?
Well, like most 20-year-olds, I was running around in circles, I suppose, and looking for something to do.
Right.
Not knowing what to do, really. And a mate of mine, he was quite influential, I think, looking back on it. I didn't think so at the time. And he was keen on art. He was always having a sort of sketch pad under his arm. And I thought at the time, well, you know, why waste your time? Why not put it to some good use and develop your interest a bit more, you know? And that's what I did. I went back to further education and night classes, and I got some suitable qualifications to go to college. I went to Manchester, College of Art, and did a photography course there. And well, I went full of excitement, but after being there a while, I found that it was a bit too scientific for my liking, and that's when I came across Tony Ray Jones, right. And that led me in a different direction to. There's all a lot of science-based stuff like reciprocity values and characteristic curves and makeup emulsions and Polaroids and all that crap. And we used to go on these short courses, you know, and one of them was a 3D course. And the tutors were so enthusiastic, they used to ask you to, they'd ask you to make a cube out of cardboard, you know, and destroy that shape just by an image you draw onto the cube. And I found this fascinating, you know, how do you destroy the shape of a cube? And I thought about it. Other people were just doing faces and silly things, you know. And I thought about it, and I thought, well, you take a corner, and you take divergent sort of lines, and you fill those in with black ink. So you've got this corner of the cube, and it all sort of diverges away from the corner with these lines which get bigger as you go away. And the guy came around and assessing the thing at the end of the day. He said, no, I can't remember what he said. Oh, he said something like, this is a very intelligent thing to do. And I thought, oh. Everybody was laughing a bit, you know, because he was a bit sort of over-keen, really. They were just drawing sort of clowns' faces on this cube, but I took it a bit more seriously, you see. And I thought, well, you know, there must be something more to this space, shapes in space, and then, you know, apply that to something. And he gave me this, you know, this encouragement. So I went on then to make sort of cranes in boxes and things, the shapes of cranes coming out of the box. And I realised the importance of a shape in a space, you know. Very important.
Do you think photography, kind of, as somebody said, I can't remember who, but somebody said that photography is in essence geometry?
Yeah, I understand. I've never subscribed to this sort of third of the picture theory. No. You know, you've got to have your important subjects within this third, and then the next third. I've never gone for that, but I understand what they mean about geometry and balance. And you see, some people equate photography to music. It's got to have a rhythm. It's got to have a style. It's got to have, you know, it's got to flow. You know, it's got to be.
So when you had your negatives and they were coming, and you were looking at your negatives and you were looking at your contact sheets.
Yeah.
Did you work on any other photographs at all, or did you just print them straight off?
In my scanner, you mean?
No, when you were actually printing, when you were doing
Oh, no, doing test strips and things.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't be bothered with all that, no. I wanted the results, you know. was too impatient for all that. Oh, the grade 5 at 30 seconds. Bugger it, I was close enough last time, I'll give it a bit more, you know. And when I was in London, they used to put it under the boiling hot water tap if it didn't come up. Pour hot water over it, you know, and try and get the highlights up a bit. You know, that's the sort of printer I was. You know, and just get it out and get it on the wall.
How long were you in London for then?
I don't know, about 2 years, eh?
Oh, gosh, right, okay. Right. And what year were that? What sort of...
70s. 1970, 71, somewhere there. You know, so I left the college, I'd been a bit disappointed with arriving full of excitement and, you know, wanting to learn by not having to teach myself, basically, and go down Tony Ray Jones's road. So...
and you didn't fancy... I mean, you were inspired by him.
Yeah.
He...
and Raymond Moore and people like this, you know.
Yeah.
And Edward Weston.
Yes.
You know, sort of...
Great photographers.
Yeah.
Did you not want to pursue something, to follow their...
Well, as I was, you know, saying, I went to London to work, and then I came back because my mother was ill. And I came down this place where I'm living now at the moment. And it was just total tranquility and peace.
What did you do in London?
I was John Thornton's first assistant. And he was like, it was full of, you know, what I disliked in people really, you know, full of hubris, full of people trying to impress each other. And I came back to see my mother and I said, oh, this is more my lifestyle, more my background. So I never went back to London and never touched a camera for 30 years. And I spent those 30 years doing this, building up this house, which is quite substantial. When I first arrived here, it was derelict. And I could take you outside here now and show you a stone, which is part of the building, cornerstone, anything, where there might be like 500 chisel marks on one stone. And some guy has sat there for perhaps a day, chiseling that one stone square. Now this is, you know, putting me in touch with the past, where I've come from. These people are something special, you know. They're not, you know, today in this sort of flick button X Factor world that we're all living in at a hell of a pace, these people spent a lifetime, you know, perfecting their art and their craft. And they left it for people like us to appreciate. Well, you know, I couldn't just turn my back on it. I had to spend my life trying to rescue it, which I think I've done to some extent. And, you know, I feel the same about photography. There's not enough care taken these days in producing the work, you know. Like you take Eggleston and these sort of people. I like their work, you know, but... Well, there's another complicated sort of thing which gets me is, how do these people make these great works? Because Eggleston, I remember one day, there was some guy doing an article on him and he went out with him, they each had a camera, and Eggleston was stopped mid-sentence and click a shot, and the bloke's looking at the subject and he said, oh, well, I'll take one of those, I'll stand in 2 feet away from him, he's probably seen something which I haven't seen. So I'll take 6 for every one that he takes. And this journalist guy took him back to his room afterwards and compared Eggleston's one shot with his several dozen. And all his were rubbish. And Eggleston's meant something. You know, where does that come from? How does he do that? I mean, that's what gets me about photography. One guy can produce it, and you can identify it as his style of photography. The next guy who comes along does the same thing, but it's not him. Whereas the Eggleston sort of character, John Jormy, you know, wonderful photography. And you identify John Jormy to that style of photography. Now, where does that bloody style come from? I don't get it. It confuses me. And I think it's marvellous.
Do you think, though, I mean, you photographed a lot of the farming community around here. Did the fact that you live in the community, know the people, understand the people, do you think that gives you an extra edge when it comes to photographing them?
300% it does. It makes your life, you know the photograph's there before you take your camera out. You know what's going to happen, you know the sequence, you know, you visualise the shot before you take it. You know, Eugene Smith, that great American photographer, he used to spend 3 months with the community before he'd take out his camera and start photographing them. And he said he visualised, he got to know the people, he got to know their habits, how they worked, how they moved, their backgrounds. He got to know everything about them. And then when it came to the actual recording of what was in front of him, he said the job was easy. You know, he just pulled out his camera and pressed the shutter and it was there. And I found the same thing, like sheep shearing, say. You'd seen it 100 times before. The sheep were going out the gate, they'd jump up in the air and land on the ground about 6 feet away. And you knew that photograph was there because the shepherd guy would stand on the corner where the sharp edge was to stop the sheep injuring themselves on the cornerstone. So he'd stand there and you get the sheep going between you and the shepherd with the sheep jumping up in the air. Knew it was there, just had to stand there and press the shutter. You know, nice shot. It's there, you got it. Yeah, so what you said earlier is, 300% it works every time if you know your subject. Yeah, I did some, don't know if I'll do any more, but I went to a dipping session last Saturday, down the road, yeah. Dipping their sheep, so I got a few, managed a couple. Yeah, and I did some round there. Yeah, I did 2 films this summer, I think, that's all I've done. But, still enjoy it, only for my own use, and, nothing spectacular. Just nice photography. Well, nice is a horrible word, isn't it? Nice or like. Doesn't say a thing. It's got to have guts, it's got to have a bit of blood, it's got to have a bit of thunder in it. A bit of something to stir the tsunami of emotions up, Get it all going.
Because these are the guys that you were talking about, the guy, that, how do they do it? Well, is it because they are great observers of the world?
Well, this is what confuses me, I don't know. Is it to do with timing? Is it, that nanosecond that they release their shutter, which makes it meaningful? Is it the composition? Is it a gift from God? Whoever he is, I don't know. It comes from somewhere.
Yes. Is it trite of us to try and wonder how they do it? Because,
well, it takes the magic of it. You see, I'm very inquisitive about things, and I want to know how you can arrive at a destination before you leave. Theory. I still can't get my head around some of these things, like when does a grain of sand cease to be on a beach? It started off as a stone. It was worn away by the seas pounding it all the time. When is the actual nanosecond when that atom, which is the grain of sand worn down, when does it cease to be? When does it cease to exist? Now, if I had that explained to me, I'd find it boring as hell. But, because I want to know, that is the challenge. The learning process is the challenge, Once it's explained, you think, oh, God, what's all that about? Talking,
And how important is art to you? And artists rather than photographers.
Well,
do they inspire you?
Oh, inspire me, good God. One of the most moving experiences I've ever had. I found myself in the National Museum in Cardiff one morning, nobody around, got up at 10 in the morning, and I walked into this room on Renaissance art. Now, I got no interest in Renaissance art, I think it's boring. And I walked through this doorway, and there was a picture on the far wall, and I swear it leapt off the wall and hit me, and I moved sideways. It had that power on me. Now, that picture, which fits in with my explanation of being anonymous, you know, I think there's nothing more nicer than being a Banksy photographer, because you shouldn't be interested in the photographer. I don't know why I'm doing this today. You should be interested in the photograph, because it's the photograph that speaks, not me. You know, I'm just a bloody passing through thing, whereas a meaningful photograph will always exist. Now, this picture, this painting came off the wall, hit me in the face, knocked me sideways, and I thought, that photograph is always going to make an impression, the painting is always going to have an impression on me because it's affected out of me. Now, that was painted by Raphael. I don't know a thing about Raphael. Don't want to know anything about it. I don't know want to know what he had for breakfast or anything. You know, he's just another name. Can hardly spell it, I shouldn't think. But that painting, Madonna of the Pinks, hit me sideways, and that's the most profound effect any images I've ever had on me, more than any other photograph that I like or admire. That was almost a physical experience.
I mean, I suppose it's leading on as to whether photography is art, or because lots of people refer to them as...
Well, it's in the eye of the beholder, really, isn't it? You know, what's the point of classifying it? You know, go to room 2A down B corridor, and you'll find photographs which aren't classified as art. You go down corridor 3A, 4C, and you'll find true art photography, which is, different category, isn't it? But it's a load of hogwash, really, isn't it? Who wants to classify it? You know?
It's just photography.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it's something which affects you, which can lead you down, you know, all sorts of places, stir all sorts of emotions and fears. And I mean, I found a photograph recently, as I was saying, I was trolling through my negatives the other day. It was only about a week ago, a fortnight ago. And you had this series on Ffoton, didn't you, about one image. Favourite one image or something. And I've made this photograph my favourite image, I think. Bypassed it the first time. Didn't even look at it. Found it now. Don't know if it's because of the nature of my frail medical condition or what, but it meant everything to me now, this photograph. It's just of three people. But you reach a certain stage in your life where you think, bloody hell, that means everything to me. Because that negative had been discarded, totally discarded the first. You're looking for this exciting image, and you're looking for it, and you look at and then you come across it years later, your mood has changed, or your ideas of the world have changed, or whatever, and it comes like a bloody Usain Bolt out of the, you know, bangs you right in the vulnerable place. And it's that power which I like in photography.
Yes.
You know, the power to be able to, a medium to do that to you.
Yes.
You know, bang. Yeah. Well, it's powerful, isn't it? Strong.
It's earth-shaking, really.
Oh, it's tsunami business, isn't it? It's just...
Because when you look at Walker Evans' stuff, the Dust Bowl stuff.
Yeah.
And you see those faces.
Dorothy Lange. And
Dorothy Lang, and, you know, it's...
Well, another thing which gets me is, say photography suffered a lens-based curse, and some sort of fungus came and invaded all the lenses and made it inoperable anymore. And you asked 100 photographers to select their 5 most important images say this event occurred in 1982, say, how many would predate that amongst the favourite photographers, and how many would be after that date? And I'm sure there won't be many after that date, which were selected by these photographers or artists or whatever you wish to call it. I think they'd all be sort of, well, 50 years back.
What do you think about photography today? We're living in this digital, very fast-moving world.
I think it's too easy. I mean, it reflects the age we live in, where everything is easy, you know. Who can sit down on a bloody job and cut stones all day with a hammer and chisel? You know, what sort of man was able to do it? I know certainly they didn't have the choice in those days. It was a hard life. But to still be able to produce it, you know, took a discipline and a respect for yourself and your fellow workers, didn't it? You know, chipping away, chip all day long.
So you were actually developing the stuff yourself then, you know, after when you picked up that camera after 30 years, you were developing the stuff yourself, you were printing yourself. Did you enjoy that process?
Hated printing, which is one of the benefits of the modern world, I think. You know, contrast and I only use contrast and brightness and a bit of shading, or whatever you call it, burning in. And borders, and that's about all I use. Cropping. But yeah, this made that easier, but the actual printing I never used to like at all. You know, you'd go into the, well, I didn't have a dark room as such. Go up into the garret up the top of the house, yeah. Freezing in winter, you get in there about 11 o'clock when everybody's gone to bed, because that's the only time you could have sort of the house fairly quiet and light-proof. And you'd sit there and you'd be 4 o'clock in the morning before you turn around, you know, and you only produce one print. And you'd be freezing, you couldn't move. I used to use a fondue tray to keep the developer warm. Oh, right. It was so cold up there. Electrical fondue. Bloody. You know, these are the lengths I used to go to. And a silage bag as a dark room over my head. Mad, innit? Silage bag and a Leica, who does that, for God's sake? Good God, I don't know.
Do you regret missing those 30 years of not taking
yeah, because of this meaningfulness that you can capture in those 30 years, you know. It's all gone, it's all slipped by. Yeah. But then this place would have fallen down by then, in that time. So I've resurrected this place and I found that quite satisfying.
Meaningful? Yeah,
meaningful again, yeah. Yeah. Listen to the silence, isn't it?
So, Peter, I mean, when you, as an 18-year-old, you decided to go to Manchester, that wasn't that was a pretty rare thing to happen in the, want to go to an art college to study photography.
Yeah, probably was, yeah.
Were you regarded as being an oddball then?
No, I was quite accepted by society. I wasn't sort of cast out on a limb or anything as some sort of freak. No, I used to play football and I used to quite a social life, and yeah, I was quite in touch with the everything that was going on, you know. Yeah. No, it was just some desire to get away or what, I don't know what it was. But it was this, I think it was the influence of this friend I had, who, you know, seemed quite convinced in what he wanted to do.
Did he become an artist?
Yeah. His son is a very good artist at the moment. I won't mention any names, so fear of embarrassing them. I showed my stuff down first time I went down to Cardiff, I think it was. to an organisation there called Third Floor Gallery. And I was completely out of touch with that world, you know, and I just happened to, can't remember how I found the place. I think I happened to be down there. I thought I'd go and look up, see what it was, see if I could get in there. And there was just this little typewriter ribbon-sized address under one of the row of bells on the wall. It said Third Floor Gallery. I thought, well, you know, this can't be it, can it? So I pressed the button. Hello? Yeah, hello? Do I come and see the exhibition? Oh, right. Push the door. And the electronic click goes and you walk up these stairs. And there's nobody in there except for one girl by herself sitting behind the desk. Well, you know, they were mainly foreigners, you know. And when I first went in there, I thought of, you know, can't communicate the same as people with their own language, you know, more or less half sign language. And I went in and I said, can I sit down? So sit down there. Yeah, sit down. So I sat down there and it was one of their best nights, they said, because there weren't many people in there that night. And there was such a divergent sort of style of photography. There was one guy showing these sort of paste up, digitally manipulated things where you get various images all plastered on. And I said, I didn't like him, you know. And I said something like, this is what it's all about, you know, you can tear people down in these sort of situations. And I said, I didn't like him, I didn't regard it as photography. It's more like digital sort of playing around. And they had this big argument then about what was photography, and then there was somebody else showing something else, and I was showing something so completely different. And it was a really interesting night, you know, just having different people's opinions of what they thought of, what direction or what thoughts they had about photography. And I appreciated that a lot, Third Floor Gallery. I thought it was great. Well, it's still going. And it's real shoestring stuff, you know. But their hearts are in the right place. You know, they're in touch with what is good about photography. And they were attracting some very prestigious people there to exhibit their work, you know.
Yes, they have, yeah. They
You
have.
know, good people.
The last time I went to see the Jacob O. Sobel. Extraordinary photography.
Yeah.
He's an extraordinary photographer.
Yeah.
But he went when his Greenland, which was the body of work that brought him to the attention of Magnum. I mean, he went to live in Greenland for 2 years, 3 years, because you know, and he got under the skin of the place.
Right.
Fell in love there and all that sort of thing. So that all that emotion comes through in the photography, and his work is very emotional, very contrasty and very dark as well.
They've had some excellent stuff there. And the people are so, you know, enthusiastic. And I mean, I shot down one poor girl there once. I heard she was from Ffoton Gallery and I gave her a rough time, you know, saying what I thought about the organisation, and she was trying to deflect me off, and I kept coming back to her and continuing the tirade, you know, and she ended up being a good friend of mine, you know.
Well, I think people appreciate honesty, Peter, don't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we're not honest enough in Wales.
Yeah, could be too polite. Like not speaking Welsh in front of a Scotsman.
Indeed.
Oops. And I don't know why I went to. Well, I just took him in. They had this Friday night sort of occasion once a month where anybody could come in off the street and show their work. So I took some of my shots down there and they were very enthusiastic. And I thought, So a few of them came up to me after the show and offered to do some work for me, like scanning. I never had a scanner or anything. I just used to sort of contact print mainly and see if they had anything worthwhile. And these guys came along and said, "Oh, I'll take you to Newport. We've got good facilities there." So I took one guy up on his offer and went to Newport one day with him. Cost me a speeding ticket. And I walked into this building and good grief, I couldn't believe it. I didn't see any of the dark rooms or studios or anything. Just went into the scanning room and there was just row upon row of Nikon's cool scans, is it, or something like that they call them? And they had all the top equipment, and they not just one or two, but rows of them. And I thought, I went out and bought a little scanner then for 20 quid or something. And that's what I still use. Little scanner. And these guys are very helpful and encouraging, and they sort of, not that I was looking for that, I was just looking for some guidelines, you know, see what people thought of my bit of feedback, you know, see if I was getting anywhere. And they were very enthusiastic and encouraging. Fair dues to them. I got on well with them. Made several good friends. So. And I think that Claire Kern, who was my sort of mentor, if you like, should be given the directorship of a photo gallery because of her enthusiasm goes a long way.
A first exhibition, did you find that a frightening experience at all? I mean,
Well, I was confused. I couldn't understand why people wanted to see this stuff I was producing. And I didn't want any publicity, you know. I'm just a blinking hick from the sticks, for God's sake. That's the way I regard myself, you know. I just taken these for my own satisfaction and enjoyment and pastime, or whatever you want to label you want to hang on it. And all of a sudden, these guys sort of took me over, and I was a bit sort of, you know, I was flattered, yeah, I suppose, but I wasn't looking for, you know, stardom or bloody accolades or celebrity by any means. I'm just an ordinary sort of guy. But they seemed to like it, so I let them go ahead.
Do you know Revilius's work?
Yeah, James.
James Revilius.
Yeah.
Because you kind of fall into that sort of category.
Yeah, I've heard that said several times. Yeah. Another interesting fact about this 30 years period was I actually had a flat with a guy when I was in Manchester. I won't say his name because it might embarrass him. And I saw a documentary done, a film cameraman. He's a film cameraman now, freelance. And he'd done this documentary on something on telly years ago, and I saw it, and it said his name and the credits after the programme. I thought, I wonder if that's the same guy, and I wondered ever since. And a couple of weeks ago, literally just a couple of weeks ago, I saw his name again. And I found an address, and I wrote to him. And I said, "Are you the same guy who used to regard going to bed as a waste of time, you see? And used to play Procol Harum, Whiter Shade of Pale, a full volume till about 3 o'clock in the morning. Then you get up about 12 the next day." And I wrote to him saying this, and he said, "Yeah, that's the same guy, that's me." Wow. And he spends half his time in California and sort of goes around the world 6 times a day, so he's in such demand. The complete opposite to me. But I had that connection with the past again, you know, and it's lovely. And what was I saying? Something about...
Did you show him his work? Did you show your work?
He found it himself. Yeah, and he said, "Oh, that was right, yeah, I'm trying to make this connection in the 30-year period." And he made the comment, "It took me back to the time when we were students. You still got the same style of photography. You're just carrying on from where he left off as a student. 30 years, it didn't exist." And the little guys in Third Floor Gallery said exactly the same. Your style of photographs is exactly the same as it was when you left college, which I found a very sort of revealing and intriguing sort of thing to say, you know, an idea.
I don't think photographers do change at all.
No. I never thought of it, you know. Yeah. And looking back on them, you can't tell the difference, you know. Some of them look really modern, the stuff I was doing 50 years ago. Looks as modern today as it did, as if it was taken yesterday.
So what sort of, if you were talking to a young photographer now, Peter, what would you say to a young photographer?
What would I say to him? Yes. Get a life.
What do you mean by that?
Well, just that, isn't it? Be what you are. You're not some, some God's gift to photography, Just be yourself. And if you want to do it, you'll do it. If the interest is there, if the drive is there, if the motivation is there, go out and do it. But otherwise, get a life.
I mean, people like Bresson were out every single day of their lives taking photographs. They were doing it, for hours on end.
Yeah.
And, A, you get really good at it. B, your timing, you don't take a photograph for a while. You just kind of don't know where you are.
You're exactly right, yeah. Because I've noticed that it's like a muscle, in your leg. If you don't use that muscle, like mine are withering away now. I used to have muscles like bloody oak trees, when I was cycling. They all got flabby. If you don't use that muscle in your eye, which you educate to see photographs, and you're using that every day, you're at a hell of an advantage to the bloke who just picks up a camera once every blue moon and takes it out for a walk, because your eye is it's got this muscle inside it, which is, focusing on what you're looking for. Whereas if you just don't know where you're looking, if you're not used to it. You can always tell a good photographer, he's sort of, he's like this all the time. There's thousands of photographs out there, you see. It's just a question of capturing it in that moment in time.
And
it's just, they're all over the place. They're everywhere.
It was interesting because yesterday I went into a tent. There was a dog show. And I went into the dog show and I was there for 2 hours because it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You get riveted, don't you?
Riveted.
And bringing backgrounds into a picture is a very important aspect of photography, eh? One which requires something else again, You've got to relate your background to your main subject, And if you can get that in as well, that's yeah. And you've got to have this blinking muscle which is working in unison with your brain, to be able to do that, eh? I'm a joint member of a syndicate which owns the local pub up the road there. And there were photographs on the wall there of, Victorian photographs of charabanc journeys to the coast and, in Victorian times with horses pulling this sort of trailer with seats in it. And I thought, well, somebody's recording these events at that time, and I thought, surely who's doing it, now? And I thought, well, perhaps I should be doing it. Because there was a big gap, and I thought, well, huge gap. And nobody was doing anything about it, so I thought, well, perhaps I could start up by recording local events and, be valuable for people in the future, just to see and say, do you remember this guy? He used to live in so-and-so, and he married that girl from down the road there, yeah, and he had 6 brothers who were all fighting, and, it brings back all these sort of, conjures up these pictures, And I thought, well, I'll get out and do some.
So, in a way, pictures are a catalyst for other things, really?
Well, they are, aren't they? It's inevitable, really. It just comes along, it just bangs you on the head, and sort of you can't avoid it, can you? You look at a photograph which has some meaning to you. I've been doing some family, trying to refurbish some old family photographs and the memories they bring back, Well, forgotten all about them, But a picture brings you back in half a second, transports you back in time. Emotions and...
So in your family and your family's photographs, who was the gatekeeper of the family photographs?
Well, funnily enough, my brother I'd requested to see these, because my children never seen a photograph of their grandmother. And I knew they existed, and I, you know, what it's like in families. Oh, they're up the attic at the moment. I can't, you know, he's busy with something else, and I asked to have a look at them. And this went on for a while. And eventually I got them, and I was very grateful for having them. And, you know, I showed them to, and now I've still got them in the front there. I've still got them on digital file, enhanced, well, not enhanced, in whatever you call it, refurbished. And they look nice, you know, they're nice little family memories. Yes. As I say, they carry meaning, you know. For me, nobody else, I don't suppose. Although several people have been, I put a few of them on Facebook or something, and several have been intrigued by the quality of them. It's just soft lens, soft focus, sort of, that did exist in those days, you know. They didn't have the definition, high definition images then, did they? There was an American photographer. When he died, he had 2,000 rolls of film undeveloped. And he had the opinion that, was it him or was it somebody else? I can't remember now. But he wouldn't want to see his photographs till a year had passed since taking them, because he'd have this expectation, he'd build up this expectation of what he had on film, the expectation of it being what he wanted to say at the time. And he'd imagine what they, and then he'd develop it after a year, and then if it didn't fulfill his requirements, he'd discard it. But if he did fulfill his dream of what it was, then it was a success. You know, he was almost visualizing the photograph into being before he saw it.
Yeah, it's funny that I used to keep when I used to take photographs analog. I used to have a row of 35mm on a shelf.
Undeveloped.
Undeveloped. I've still got 3 undeveloped in a box.
You regard them as treasures.
They are treasures.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And I don't know why. I don't know why. I might get them developed one day.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I found one in my parents' house the other day. I think it's probably my dad took them. No, they'll be interesting to develop as well. But I've never exhibited either.
No.
And and I'm not sure whether I'm kind of frightened of it, of exhibiting work. I show stuff on.
Or afraid of people's reactions, or?
I don't know what it is, Peter.
I couldn't give a crap, you see, for people's reactions to my photographs.
No, I don't. No, I.
If you want to make something of them, then it's up to you.
Yes.
You know, I will put my statement on the wall and run away, and it's up to you between you and the photograph then. Yeah. You know, get on with it.
Yeah. It'd be nice to see your photographs in a book.
In a book. Might have run out of time by then. Again, you know, I feel as if I'm getting into the territory of hubris again, you know. I don't want to be there. I'm not into, you know, all that sort of celebrity bit. I don't want it. It just doesn't appeal to me. You know, you get certain people who go around shouting themselves as greatest photographer that's ever been born. You know, they carry about 6 cameras on the middle and go shouting to everybody how great they are. But I've got no time for that. I don't want to be like that. You know, it's just, you either, you know, appreciate them or you don't. And, you know, if they're there, you look at them, and if they mean anything, they'll get to you. If not, you just go on to the next one and have a look at that.